what we're going to talk about today, just in brief, is generalised anxiety disorder. Now, I have to say before I start this, I'm not a mental health specialist by any stretch of the imagination. My background is predominantly autism, so what I'm going to give you today is just some general information about generalised anxiety disorder. But as the weeks go on, what we really want to do is get practitioners involved, so people that are specialists within that field, to give us a little bit of information. Okay, so generalised anxiety disorder, or GAD as it's sometimes referred to, affects around 5% of the population, and generally in females between the ages of kind of 35 to 59. That's what research is telling us. So we know that it affects quite a lot of the population, but we also know that in our autistic individuals it can affect them at a higher rate than that. And when we talk about anxiety and autism, we know that anxiety is a big part of autism for many reasons. So the first thing is around that social interaction. So the demand to be social all the time can really create anxiety. If you don't understand social cues, or you're having a real problem interpreting the world around you, then that's going to make you anxious, and it makes the world a very stressful place to be. So that's kind of one of the ideas why we know our people have higher rates of anxiety. We also, if we look at thinking patterns, so if we look at that rigid thinking pattern, how we talk about kind of black and white thinking, that can also have an impact also, because if you really struggle to be flexible in your thinking, then your anxiety is going to increase in certain situations. So we see that also. Emotional regulation and emotional well-being, so understanding your basic emotions and understanding how to regulate them, so knowing what makes you feel better is really important, and a lot of our people find that really difficult. So again, that can have an impact, and that can show itself as anxiety. But one of the things with generalised anxiety disorder, it is a diagnosis in itself, and it tends to be given if the anxiety is at extreme levels. So if the anxiety isn't in keeping with the situation, so for example, if you go for a job interview, the survival mode will kick in and you will experience some level of anxiety. It might be quite minor anxiety that you experience, maybe just before the interview or after the interview, because you might worry how you've done in that session. Now, if you're experiencing anxiety 3-4 weeks before, and it's you're not sleeping because of that, you're not eating, even after the interview's finished, you're still experiencing that quite high level of anxiety, then that is anxiety that's actually it's greater than the situation that's been presented to you, and that's when you would start looking at that kind of clinical diagnosis of maybe a generalised anxiety disorder. Now, it is a very personalised thing, so we know that anxiety can present differently in different people. So for me, if I'm stressed, and stress is very different to an anxiety disorder, but if I'm stressed out, I'll overeat. So I like to eat. That's kind of my kind of comfort when I'm stressed out. Some of my coping strategies, as I might take the dog for a walk. So again, we're all very individual and unique in how we manifest anxiety. But some of the kind of the key symptoms, if you like, around generalised anxiety disorder, from a physiological point of view, we look at things like muscle aches, trembling. Is there some kind of physical response from your body that's telling you that you're actually getting anxious? It could be that the person's having palpitations, or they actually feel that their heart's beating faster, or they feel that it's actually missing beats. They could be feeling dizzy, nauseous, tired, having problems sleeping. All these things can be actually a manifestation of an underlying anxiety disorder. We also experience other symptoms like irritability, a feeling of impending dread or doom, seeing things from quite a negative perspective, and then we can sometimes see that challenging behaviour as well. So it might be that you see a change in your child or young person or adult's behaviour, and that could be a sign of this kind of anxiety. And not everyone with autism will be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, but it's important that we kind of have clinicians that can unpick it, because it might be that they need a different course of support or a different course of intervention based on their actual needs. So it's really, really important that we kind of consider that, because we know a lot of our people are really anxious, and that's around the unpredictability of life. It's really, really difficult. And anxiety in small amounts is typical. It's what we need. It's a survival technique that we actually need to get us through life. But if you find that it's too much, it's actually, affecting you every second of the day. Your person might be anxious about one thing, and then that thing disappears and they're on to the next thing, and it's a continual cycle of anxiety, then it's worth going to a doctor and kind of seeing, what would be the best way to kind of kind of support that and unpick them behaviours. That's really, really important.